Good morning, everyone. Right, so I've not been here before, so let's see what the acoustics are like. Can you hear us at the back?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. I could just about hear you, but that's a different challenge. We'll worry about that later on. So I always ask before, who's been to these startup stories? I recognise a few faces, but who's been here to a startup stories event before? There you go. Oh, we've got quite a few newbies then. Oh, good. Very good. So let me explain the format a little bit. As you will appreciate, we have a wonderful panel of speakers we're going to get onto in a moment. I will apologise in advance. I treat these sessions quite selfishly, that we'll go through subjects that I get interested in, and I'll talk to these four individuals until I remember that you're in the room as well, and then we'll open up to some Q&A. So the subject today predominantly is around originality and innovation, which I'm not going to say that many times because Rachel knows I struggle with the word innovation and say innovative. So you will not find me saying that, I'll talk about originality instead. And how that contrasts with kind of herd mentality. So if everyone's being innovative, surely everyone's the same. And how do you identify what an innovative or an original business is versus one that's going with the flow but still making money? And we'll go through some subjects inside of that. And as I say, we'll talk through, got some questions for the panel, and then we'll open up to everyone here. We don't have a screen, so I don't have to point at anything on there this time, so that's wonderful. So best thing to do is let's start with a bit of a background on you team as an individual, as your individuals. If you want to start with a little bit about your background, your company, what you do, and then we'll work our way along. If you want to start at your end, Tim.
Sure. Hi everyone. My name's Tim Langley. I run a business called CANDDi. We are, I was going to say we're an 8-year-old startup. It goes a bit twee to be an 8-year-old startup, doesn't it? We're a company, there's 20 people, we're based in the Northern Quarter. Basically we spy on people. So we do very detailed web analytics and use the knowledge, big data, and not a buzzword dingo, isn't it? So we use big data to understand the identity of people coming to websites, and then use that as a lead gen activity for sales teams. Is this good? Is there anything else you'd like to know?
That's super. And just because we were talking about before we came on, you've all noticed the colour coordination here. Could you just explain what you told me about the outfits? Because I think it's brilliant.
It's become a bit silly. So we everyone in the company gets given a CANDDi hoodie about 2 to 3 months after they join. We get a load of them printed up. We've got generational ones now, and you start to recognise people. And you go, oh, you must have been in CANDDi in 2000X. We then have CANDDi polo shirts, which get given to people. So if you come and do a trade show, you get given a CANDDi polo shirt. And then if you end up doing a speaking event, we give people CANDDi trainers. There allegedly, says Sadia, there is CANDDi underwear, but I haven't discovered what happens to get CANDDi underwear yet. But
brilliant, thank you very much, Tim. Over to you.
My name's James Mulvany, and I'm founder of a company called Radio.co, which is a live streaming platform for broadcasters. Basically, it makes it really easy for anyone to start a radio station online. We manage the whole process from scheduling content to go out at specific times of the day, to broadcasting live, to tracking listeners, how long people are tuned in for, what device they've tuned in from, and how long they've listened for, etc. I've been in business since I was 17, so I got started very, very young. I've never actually had a job working for anyone else. And I've had various different companies, quite often related to broadcasting and streaming. Yeah?
I'll come back to you on the
okay.
current one in a minute, don't worry. Sam?
Hi, I'm Samantha Deakin. I'm the founding partner of Campus Capital. We're a really new early stage venture capital firm based in Manchester and Sheffield, investing into high growth potential startups at the very, very early stages. So I guess what's innovative about our model is that we're partnering with universities to set up student VC groups and running experiential learning programs within these universities so that students get the exposure to venture capital. They can raise their awareness of venture capital and investing through making actual investment decisions.
And that started in Sheffield
And Manchester.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant model.
So far.
And last but not least, Matt?
So good morning everybody, my name is Matt Cooling, I'm from Cisco, so definitely not a startup. So I work in our corporate innovation group, sorry Richard.
That's all right.
And basically this is a team that's a global team that looks after how we work with startups across the globe, and specifically in Manchester, this is where we decided to open our 9th innovation centre, so over in Manchester Science Partnerships. and that's essentially what we're doing in the innovation space in Manchester.
So we've got the backing innovation and we've got the doing innovation on that side. We'll see what we can do. So probably starting with you two first. If we just go a bit back to your businesses, can you tell me a little bit about where they started? Again, maybe we'll start with Tim again. So, what was the creation of CANDDi? Where was the idea? Where did it come from? What was the source?
It's like most good things, it was in a pub.
There's something to be said.
Fortunately, we moved out of the pub, and that's when we started getting serious. But no, so a bit like James, I've had a number of businesses. Some have been successful, some have been less successful. In 2008, I had a business that ended up going bust. And was doing some consulting for an agency in Ancoats called And Digital. And And Digital were your classic B2B agency. In fact, they were probably doing content marketing, as you call it these days, bit before it became buzzword bingo. And they brought me in because their clients would say, so that they would do classic content-driven email marketing. So they would work for a large organisation. They would either buy or build a list. They'd send an email. They'd drive people to a landing page. They'd have some content behind it. Everything very exciting, and they'd give very good vertical metrics. The problem was the clients wanted horizontal metrics. So what they wanted to know was Richard, who opened an email and downloaded a white paper in month 4. What had he done in months 1 to 3? Did he just wake up, or has he had some previous engagement, and how did that all tie together? And they brought me in to as the technical guy to kind of bring this together. And after a couple of weeks of doing it, I went to the director and I went, do you know what? I think there's probably a business in here, because if you're struggling with this, I bet other people are. And they went, well, yeah, that sounds quite interesting. Tell you what, we'll be your first investors if you like. And then they had one condition, which was that the name of the company included the words "and digital," hence CANDDi is Campaign and Digital Intelligence Limited, and that was their one condition. The agency has moved on as these things do, but CANDDi lives on.
Wow, fantastic! And I guess, so at what point did you get validation that was? So you knew it was a good idea, but at what point do you go, yeah, do you know what? This is working now. This is right.
I don't know, still seek it every day. I'm not a bit, so that the whole product market fit, as though it's like tablets from heaven, it's mostly bullshit. Every day we have new customers that join, and we have, unfortunately, some customers that stop using our product, and you're constantly in that. So yeah. I don't know.
But you generated revenue, and that was kind of validation at the first point, and people buy the thing, and it takes it from there.
Yeah, I guess there's stages, right? So stage number 1 was finding a co-founder who was stupid enough to think it was a good idea as well, and then stage number 2, so CANDDi's potted history, we got accepted onto an accelerator program which was called the Difference Engine, and it's kind of a forerunner to Ignite 100, and that was a different set of validation. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever really stopped and thought about it. It's I'm more interested. I guess one of the things that I see a lot in businesses is and it'll be interesting to know how this plays into a larger company view. But I have the big picture view, like the vision. Do you know what? That's what I want to be when we grow up, and I know what we need to do tomorrow, and everything in between doesn't really matter. But maybe that explains why we take a more meandering route than a direct route.
So let's talk about Radio.co. When did that model start? Yeah.
So when I was 16, 17, going back to sort of 2004, I was learning how to build websites. I was also interested in sort of deciding what I was going to do as a career, and I was looking at going to radio as a DJ. But I was also interested in the technical side of things. Didn't go into radio, but I ended up sort of setting this thing up called Wave Streaming, and really that was a B2B streaming company. We were selling into radio stations. Internet radio was still relatively young then. Fast forward sort of 5-10 years, got to about 2010 and 11, and we noticed the number of inquiries we were getting were more from consumers who wanted to start radio stations online versus actual radio stations looking for streaming services. And the problem was the software that we were using was owned by AOL, and it was built in like 1999, so it was quite sort of old-fashioned and quite difficult to use, quite techy for consumers. And a lot of the guys who wanted to get set up didn't really have a great amount of technical knowledge. We had a deal with AOL where they were referring us lots and lots of customers, which was great. That deal came to an end, so we kind of sort of went back to the drawing board and thought, right, what's next? What are we going to do to continue growth and move on to the next sort of step? And that's how Radio.co came about, because we really reinvented it and sort of made it more accessible to anyone. So the idea was it was meant to be web-based, you can access it from anywhere, no sort of ugly, hard-to-use, complicated desktop software, just like a really streamlined, easy-to-use and easy-to-manage experience. When we launched Radio.co in July 2015, so it's coming up to 2 years old. Because of our existing mailing lists and because of the amount of inquiries we'd had from consumers, we were in a very fortunate position. We spent about a year and a half building it before launch, and we knew that it was pretty much going to be a success overnight. So it's a very sort of lucky position to be in for a startup. We treated it as a new company. We treated it as a completely separate product, as a brand new brand in itself, rather than sort of launching it as a product from the existing company. So went live, and we signed up considerable number of clients within the sort of first few weeks, which was great. Of course, just like any other startup, you then have your teething problems. So we had a lot of technical issues over the first 6 months, scaling problems, all this kind of stuff. But we're in a good position now where it's really great product. We've innovated some over the past year, and we've got it to a level where we're really happy with the products. And over the next year, it's just going to be about really pushing on innovation and driving some new exciting features forward for clients.
Brilliant. And before I move on to the other half of the so would you define yourselves as innovative businesses?
Yes.
No.
Oof. What, now or where you were, or do you think that's changed over time? Were you innovative when you hit that accelerator program, or do you just not even think about it? Do you not label yourself in that way?
I was thinking about it a lot before I turned up today. And let's be clear, I'm being a little harsh when I say no. As in, I think every business in some way has, right? There's bits we do that are unique, there's bits we do that are quirky, there's bits we do that are different, there's bits we do that are fun, like the clothing list and stupid stuff. Do we have some cool technology? Yeah, we've got some great technology. Do we do some interesting things? Yes. I was debating, and the whole thesis of today's talk was do you have to be like truly unique to be in? And actually, I almost started thinking it's almost more dangerous to be truly unique than actually to be incrementally better than what's currently out there.
Yes.
And I think that's probably how I would look at where we are, and we can go into as much detail as you want, but we're in a very competitive space. There's loads of people doing marketing / lead gen / sales type tech. There's lots of stuff going on around there. Some others in the Northwest. So yeah, do we do innovative things? Yes. Are we a unique business? No. Do we make sales? Yes. Happy days.
One of the words that I get kind of sick of hearing in the startups is disruptive. We're not disruptive in that sense. We're innovative in that we're in a niche, We're not disrupting something that's going to change the world. I've always been a big firm believer as well, and there's nothing wrong in entering a market and just taking a slice of the pie versus 100%. Trying to create a whole new market from nothing, which often can end up just with failure, because you see some of the pictures on like Dragon's Den, and they've come up with some crazy product. And it's like you're trying to solve a solution to a problem that just doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's probably the reason why there's no market.
Well, exactly, yeah.
So that segues nicely to a certain extent, Sam. So in terms of when you work with the student VCs, what do they look for? How do you even start training them up? And what do they look for, innovation or originality, or do they just look for a business model that's going to generate some damn revenue ultimately?
Well, I mean, the programme is very new at the moment. I mean, you could ask a couple of them yourself. They're in the audience. I mean, in terms of, so I'm a big believer in experiential learning. So in terms of how we set up the programme, it is set up to provide some theoretical underpinning, but then it's really important for us that we get the student VCs out, speaking to founders, analysing pitch decks, looking for those kind of things. I mean, in terms of originality and innovation, I'm not sure how highly it does feature, to be honest. You're looking for, you know, strong team. You're looking for a great market. You're looking for a belief that that team can execute on what they're saying they're going to do, and that what they're saying they're going to do fits with the thesis of the firm.
Yeah.
But to a certain extent as well. So I still see Campus Capital as very much a venture startup, if that is a thing. So, you know, we're very new. We've been doing this, you know, having these conversations for maybe 18 months. Myself and my co-founder also starting in a pub.
Yeah.
And we've kind of struggled with this innovation word as well. And I actually Googled the definition in preparation for today, because it's an area I've worked in for a number of years. Because one of my other hats is I also work with very early stage entrepreneurs, student and graduate entrepreneurs at the University of Sheffield, helping them validate concepts and launch businesses and things. And so you hear innovation a lot, and it's just one of those things that I've never actually sat down and thought, what is the actual definition of innovation? And it's funny, you were saying, you know, no, we're not innovative, but then you went on to basically give the perfect definition of innovation.
What's the definition? Do you remember that?
Well, it's either creating something entirely new or developing something that already exists in a new way.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you know, we talk about risk as well.
Yes.
And obviously the latter in that situation is less risky.
Yeah.
Well, you made an interesting point, and that is the kind of the risk trade-off, isn't it? Do you innovate on something, or do you know, iterate on something that already exists, and you're a slightly safer bet you maybe know what you're getting into, albeit there's possibly more competition, or do you plough into that completely unheard of territory that may or may not even have a market? I guess that's kind of one of the kind of like two kind of polar opposites in that scenario, maybe. And what does it look like at Cisco? So you're behind the mic. Is it? How do we even say my idea? But you're right, isn't it? But
It's not confusing at all.
No, it's fine. So when you're looking, so you launch in a couple of months officially. So
Yes.
So what does the entry criteria look like for your kind of well, it's not cohort, but your kind of people that become that incubator?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, we've got quite a specific sort of view on what innovation is. And
Well, you've got it in the name of the program.
Yes,
so
exactly. You're aware, yeah. So I think for us, it's two specific things. It's this concept of creativity, something, the new ideas that you mentioned, and that could be a new idea solving an old problem, or potentially an old idea solving a new problem.
Yeah.
So it's that idea, that creativity aspect to it, combined with this element of commercialisation.
Yeah.
So the ability to actually deliver on that idea. There's so many ideas out there that you know, people come up with fantastic ideas, but they can't actually turn them into a business. They can't drive revenue from them.
Okay.
So it's appreciating, you know, both of those aspects to innovation.
Yeah.
And from our perspective, you know, that defines our criteria. It's have you got that product that's something different. I think the difference bit is really, really important. Yeah. Because and you know, comes to the whole top herd mentality thing. You get one idea coming up, and then all of a sudden everyone says, "Oh, yeah, I'm just going to follow it." And the entry criteria for startups now is so low. It's so easy to start a startup.
Oh, you mean in general? So not
general.
in your program?
Yes, not in our program. But yeah, I think it's so easy to start. To create a startup these days. And so you've got to make sure you've got that difference, that differentiation as a company.
Yes.
I was going to ask, why do you think it's so easy these days? It's always been easy to start a company. It's keeping us going that's bloody difficult.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing. It's the sustaining that's difficult. But if you look at how easy it is now to create a mobile app, for example, you know, the whole, you know, what technology has brought to the startup industry over the last, you know, if you look back 30, 40, 50 years, you know, 30, 40 years, it was, you know, there was a different type of startup, but definitely being an innovative startup was a lot harder then. I think now you can come up with ideas and you can try them, but that comes back to the, you've got that idea, that's fine, you can try it, but making a business out of it, driving revenue from it, that's as hard, if not more harder nowadays than it used to be.
And just zooming out a little bit, so I mean, you know, why does Cisco do this? Why do you have My Idea? What's your reason for running that program?
So I mean, Cisco as a business, you know, obviously we aspire to be innovative, and I believe we are innovative as a company. But we're one company based with, you know, in San Jose, and there's so much innovation out there that happens beyond our walls. Yeah. It seems stupid to not take advantage of that. It seems such a waste that we've got customers coming to us to say, can you help us change, you know, deal with our big business problems, whether it's a Jaguar Land Rover or a William Hill or something like that, and to just have what we've got seems crazy.
Yeah.
You know, what we want to do is say, well, the great ideas are coming out of this audience here. They're coming out of the startup community. So we're in that great position of being able to pull together that startup community with these big enterprises. And essentially, we were talking about this the other day, we see ourselves as much as the glue. You know, we provide elements of a proposition, of a solution to a problem.
Yeah.
But actually for us, you know, it's about making those connections between organisations such as yours and the big customers that we've got the privilege of working with.
So you touched on the problem-solving element there, and it's something you started with at the very beginning of this, is that, surely some of those kind of best innovations, or launches, let's not even call it innovation at this stage then, are problem-solving. They're not just the solution waiting for the problem, they're actually, no, this is something that needs fixing, let's find a way of doing it that may or may not be innovative, but let's focus on that. Is that really at the core of your kind of programme? It's a problem-solving exercise?
I think for us, you've got to come back to that problem eventually, but quite often we do take a stab in the dark. We know we've got this really innovative, really creative idea. We know that there's a team there that can really deliver. That they've got that passion, they've got that inspiration, and we know they're going to be successful. They may need to pivot products. If it doesn't meet the problem that they thought they originally were out to match, but quite often when you come up with an innovative idea, you don't actually know what the problem is you're solving. You do need to figure it out quickly. But sometimes that's such a great idea. Is there a market there for that? Can we find that customer base?
So I want to come back to a point that Tim started on there about the whole balance of risk in this whole equation. So in different ways, you've all taken risks in all of this. So I mean, again, you've just had some airtime, so I might start that end again. If that's all right. Let's go, James. Let's go random. Biggest risk you've taken so far, then?
Well, as I said, with Radio.co, to some extent, we spent a lot of money developing it in terms of time and everything. But I've actually just started a new business, and I've just hired, within a space of sort of 2 months, I've hired 5 people, and got a new office. It's called MCR Live, and it's a content platform for Manchester, which encompasses a radio station. So it's quite, it works well with Radio.co, and the idea was really spun out of that. But that's quite, in terms of the biggest risk I've taken to date, that's probably the one, because it's just, in a position where, with my business early on, it very much started from nothing, grew it very slowly. I'm lucky that I've never had to have investment, and I've had sort of time to grow things. And so, as I say, with this, hiring that many people in such a short space of time, completely different business really in a new office, it's quite scary, but it's exciting at the same time. And I think as an entrepreneur, sometimes you've got to take calculated risks, and I suppose that's probably what keeps a lot of entrepreneurs moving forward and driving. And obviously, as I said, with Radio.co, even though I kind of didn't see it as a risk, probably other people would, so.
Perception, your kind of context.
I suppose, it's how you manage that risk as a business owner in your own head, because if you allow it to be sort of this big scary thing and it's going to get the better of me and I'm going to lose everything, then it probably will. So it's quite a dangerous mentality to have.
Don't start thinking about it. Don't start going
you've got to sort of try and also you've got to reinvent yourself. There's times, as I mentioned earlier, we had a big deal in the previous sort of streaming business that I had. Well, it's still going, but obviously all our focus is now on Radio.co. But we had a big deal. We were getting lots of customers, and all of a sudden, as quick as that deal came around, it went. And that's what happens in business. You'll have clients, big, huge contracts, and then suddenly the contracts will come to an end and they won't renew, or they'll go elsewhere. And you've got to be proactive and think about how you can sort of mitigate the risk in the short term and keep going and then try and find a solution to the problem in terms of, like, if you want to continue growth, how are you going to do that? Is it going to be going out finding more contracts at bigger value, or is it going to be, well, we've kind of become a bit stuck in the past now and we need to innovate in order to bring things up to date, which is what we did with Radio.co.
There's a couple of things that came out of that, and I've written them down to come back to them later on, because there's loads of different tangents I can go out of that conversation.
Right.
But you were nodding all the way through it, actually, too.
100% in agreement.
Yeah.
On all the levels, on the level of what I'm doing may be perceived as risky, but I don't see it as risky because I know the levers I'm controlling. So CANDDi's taken a slightly different route. We raised some VC early doors. We can talk about that anytime you want. It was a big mistake, but we won't go there. We nearly went bust in 2014. So at one point in August 2014, we had about 45k in the bank. We were losing 25k a month. And we owed HMRC about 50k because I hadn't been paying my PAYE. Deliberately not paying it, and I believed we were going to raise a Series A in the middle of that, and then that didn't come together, and that was an interesting.
So that's a lot of responsibility and a lot of weight on your shoulders as an MD or CEO. Or,
well,
yeah.
and that's so it's funny when you talk about some of the risk pieces. So one, and that's absolutely one of them. One of the pieces now is sometimes I. There's a thought that goes, there's 20 people's salaries, which probably means, and I'm employing slightly older people sometimes these days, so that's probably 35 people's livelihoods that depend on us doing something every month. And so you were talking about a risk thing, and to me the whole piece of being an entrepreneur is constantly calculating the risks you're taking. So we're at a stage now, we're raising some more capital, but with our previous VC conversation, we're going to do a debt raise rather than an equity raise. So I'm now in a whole PG. Do I stick my family home against guaranteeing that I know what I'm going to do? And don't record it, but my cynical view goes, I know where my business is, and if I needed to, I'd fire everybody and make 100k a month. Happy days. That's the loan repaid, so it feels like a low risk. But don't quote me on that one, because that's the wrong way to be running a business.
That's the worst case scenario. This is what I'm trying to do.
And hence why I go, do you know what? I'll take the PG because I'm fairly confident I can get rid of the costs before the customers all leave. But that's truly worst case scenario. No, that's not. But you are running that kind of balance in your head is do I feel comfortable with knowing that I could do this?
And then some guy who's saying you've been innovative, and you go, piss off, I'm trying to deal with this lot right now. You know?
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I mean when I came back to do you know what? Every single day, it's the okay. What do we need to do today? And then big picture, you kind of look back and you go, oh, do you know what? There's some fun things that went on, and maybe we were kind. Do you know what? In 2013, maybe we did something that was innovative. But I look at it with hindsight as opposed to with rose-tinted glasses going forwards.
Yeah. Blimey. So we've got a bit of measurement, we've got a bit of media arguably here. In terms of the sectors that you two are seeing, where are you seeing the most exciting stuff? Either whether it's in original kind of space or businesses that are just doing something better than the people that are out there right now. What kind of things are you, more sectors rather than companies, you don't have to name drop anyone if you don't want, but what sectors are you most excited about in the minute? Do you want to go first, possibly, Sam?
I can. I have a comment about risk, if I might.
No, please.
On the last question, because I think one of the really interesting things about the word sort of innovation and innovative is sort of the story that we tell ourselves as founders as well, and the conversations that you have with your founding team compared to the conversations that it makes sense to have with other people, particularly stakeholders, and if you have multiple customers that you're trying to attract. So I guess one of the risks for us around innovation, right from the beginning, that we maybe even we recognised but didn't recognise the extent of, was that we have maybe 4 different customer segments that we're trying to talk to all at once. 2 of those fall into the category of being highly interested in innovation, and that's the startups that we would want to attract to the fund, and also the students who want to be involved in the programme. They're interested because they're going to experience something new, and it's going to be innovative, and nobody else is doing this, and it's great.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, we have university stakeholders, and we have investors that might invest into our fund, who hear, what, new? Nobody's done this before in the UK? That sounds risky.
Yeah, the opposite. Yeah.
So actually the way you communicate about innovation and the way you communicate, depending on who your customer segment is as well, and who, what kind of message you're trying to send out, can be a risk as well, I think.
Yeah, it's probably not a subject for today, but it came up at the UK BAA event last week. Was the general consensus was that there was a lower appetite for risk in UK investors than overseas. Perception, I don't know whether there's no solid data behind that. I don't think.
And
but
then
that was
think
the
about
perception.
universities.
Well, and they're probably safer than safe. But in this country, that's not the US model, or maybe even probably Cambridge is a bit more experimental in that
Yeah.
space, because I'm from Manchester, the property is.
I think again it comes down to your customer because particularly so you're in a sort of B2C space now and you're talking to people who are wanting.
Well, it's a mix,
stuff.
yeah, but it's a lot of consumers, but with businesses as well. But yeah,
Right,
it varies,
okay.
yeah.
And it'd be interesting to hear whether the way you communicate, how innovative you are, changes to your various.
The marketing, our marketing strategy is very much not focused on bigging us up and talking about how amazing we are. It's really what we can do for the customer. And how easy it is for them to get started and that kind of thing, and also delivering lots of value. We've got, we're very hot on content marketing, so we're constantly doing videos and writing content and tutorials and this kind of thing to show people how to get started and just really try and provide as much value as we can to the market space that we're targeting.
So Matt, for your program, does risk take a part in the kind of selection criteria or not?
I think the whole nature of what we're doing is the risky bit in a way, and actually I like to think that we've made the risk as a corporate level by making the decision to invest in all these centres and invest in this programme. Yeah. So now it's about actually who's got the biggest chance of really making it for us. So it's interesting, when I joined this team it was about a year ago, and I went to 2 different pitching sessions. Yeah. And the mindset of the US-led ones, the UK ones, are completely different. The US-led one was, right, okay, let's focus on your product, let's focus on your market, let's focus on your team. And it was all very sort of positive, assuming you're going to make it. Right. Just you're going to make it. How strong are those things? Yeah. The UK one was, what's the risk? Yeah, where's this going to go wrong? And exactly. And
not where will it go right, where will it go wrong?
Exactly. And that was a marked, and it's anecdotal, it's not, it's not, I'm not going to serve you anything. But that really stood out to me. I thought actually, when you get to the point where you've committed to doing this, you've got to have that confidence to say, I'm going to make it work, because that then actually minimises the risk, because that individual or that team has said this is going to happen regardless what. I'm going to make something of this, and that then in essence for me minimises the risk a little bit. If I had a team, if I had a startup approach us and said, we've got this really cool idea. We think we're going to do this, and we might be able to do that. Well, you've not got confidence in yourself. You probably won't be willing to take those risks yourself. Yeah. And because of that, exactly. Yeah. So risk.
So we've moved from risk to confidence now. So go on.
And there's a very fine line between confidence and bullshit.
True.
And I see one of the things, and we wonder why we have a mental health question that sometimes comes up around startups. And there's a very fine line between the being quietly confident of knowing I've got all the ducks in order, I know what I need to do, I know how this can come together, versus I've got this dream, and if I say it enough times, then maybe someone else will believe that the dream's actually going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with that. And there's pictures you watch, and you kind of can tell sometimes these figures are just completely blown out of proportion, and not really based on any kind of real life grounding. It's just, oh look how massively we're going to grow.
I'm not convinced there's as big a difference between the US and the UK either. I think it's just a cultural thing.
I think the startup thing from the US has kind of come over to the UK. Really, I think that the UK pitches are becoming more Americanized. Do you know what I mean?
I was thinking more back to the take out of the dream. Right, and don't get me wrong, and I'm being old and cynical. I'm not hungover today, so I'm more old and cynical than normal. But everyone goes through the dream phase where you don't know what you're doing, you don't know who you're doing it for, and that's fine, and that's all okay. But after that, you then get to the I'm building a business phase, and you go, okay, and businesses are all exactly the same, right? You have customers, you have suppliers, you have staff, and somewhere you make money. And then there's a product. It's not much more complex than that. But it's funny. I see. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the. And I've been through it, and I'm cynical about it. I'm not a big fan of the. We've got a product, we've got a team, we've got a vision. Great, let's go do it. Raise a ton of money and make it happen. And I see the opposite side. I see the side of friends in America that have got companies that haven't been growing fast enough, therefore the funding's been cut and the business go bust. And you go, you're doing 100 grand, 400 grand, whatever a month, but you weren't doing it fast enough, therefore it's not exciting. And I go, crying out loud, that's an amazing business. And why have you annoyed all your investors by stopping it? Anyway, I'm getting carried away with myself. But,
I think, I mean, that's to a certain extent where, more education about what different types of investment are.
For whom? The startup founder or the investor?
For both. I think on both sides it's important. Particularly, so for startups, I think that so there has been this almost sort of imported Silicon Valley story of, you have an idea overnight and then you go and raise millions of pounds. And
you're worth
and then Facebook buy you out.
quid in.
And you ride off into the sunset on a unicorn and life is great. And, and it doesn't happen like that, obviously, and it shouldn't happen like that either, because if you're raising investment on the back of a piece of paper, which is not going to happen anyway, you're not in a great negotiating position. You're going to be giving away a ton of your company. I
don't know. We raised our first funding on a PowerPoint presentation.
Did you?
And what year was this again?
2010.
I think it's tough times actually. Yeah.
I think it's even easier today than it is
really?
That was.
That was different.
Yeah.
Just post-production, wasn't it?
But to me it's less the. Although clearly it's both, but it's. So we raised RDA, so money from government fund in 2010. We did a mixed government angel round in 2012, and we told a story called "We're a SaaS business." SaaS businesses are really easy; they go like that, and all our investors went, "Oh, that's really good. Can you go like that?" And it didn't, and it's going like that. So it's only a difference in scale, but part of it's about being. And I'm going to sound a bit trite about it, but because it takes a long time to get here, but part of it's about being open and honest with you about who you want to be.
Yeah.
I've got a friend that runs a business, Newcastle-based business, that I don't know, they're on their, feels like their 29th. I think they're on probably their 4th round of funding. They've never really figured out how to do it. They've become experts at raising angel money, and that's where they're experts in. And now 5 years later, they're still not really kind of doing anything.
The whole funding balance. Yeah, and it is a bit cool. And I'll do what, and then I'll do the usual thing. I've got you all here again, so I will let you ask some questions in a minute. And this isn't necessarily belief I share. Again, one of the things that came out at an investment event the other week, and this wasn't even supposed to be an investment subject, but it boiled my blood a little bit. Part of the sentiment was generally that the view from this investor was that UK businesses, tech businesses in particular, were less ambitious than their US counterparts. So they'd exit sooner, they'd take funding later, typically when they got a profit, so they had something to argue for rather than early. And they saw that, and that was their stance, that we're less ambitious because of those criteria. And then you can argue, well actually, I sensibly came for money when it was the right time, because I was like breaking even, I had a growth plan. And I decided to get out because of a variety of tax reasons or whatever might be the way to do it. Would you resonate with that? I mean, you probably wouldn't, based on what you've said already, but are we generally less ambitious?
I don't know. We didn't raise a Series A because we went out to be ambitious, and the VCs didn't like the idea that we were being ambitious. I don't know. Swings and roundabouts. There's
something as well in that relationship as well, though, isn't there? About like you said, knowing who you want to be, knowing what kind of company you want to build, and then making sure if you are going to go for investment that there's compatibility because you're going into a marriage.
Maybe like there's. To sort of boil it down to the UK is a much smaller country than the USA, so maybe naturally the scale is smaller. So I mean, the way we're brought up and our just general mindsets, half of our customer base is in the USA because it's a huge market, and a small portion is in the UK really. So, but I don't know, maybe that ambition comes from the fact that they're just used to being in such a big country with, potentially more opportunity. I'm not sure.
I think there's also the winner's curse thing, right? You only actually hear of the winners, so
that's very true. Yeah.
So the US there's just more volume, therefore there's a lot more failures. But but you don't hear about a lot more failures, therefore you think the winners are bigger.
But there's also some, in Silicon Valley, there's some horrible stories about suicide and stuff like this, and, you know, people have failed, or, you know, it's not nice. There's this dark side to it. When I was at South by Southwest in March, there was a guy called Gary V, who was giving a talk, and some of you might have seen his videos, been aware of him, and it was quite interesting because he was saying, he was talking about a success versus failure, and he was talking about the dangerous sort of startup mentality where people sort of see startup founders like rock stars these days, and he's like, you know, let me remind you, unless you're making a profit, you haven't got a successful business, and the sort of dangers behind, you know, raising too much money and not being able to pay it back effectively and this kind of stuff. So I thought it was quite interesting point of view, quite interesting talk. A lot of that resonated with me.
Yeah.
I'm very much profit driven and always have been, basically.
Yeah, they're over glamour. So you did, my last question for you, we didn't answer it before. So where are you seeing the most excitement between you in terms of any particular category that gets you going at the moment?
I think, I mean, maybe I'm biased, but I do think that the tech sector as a whole, there's so much going on there. And it comes down to the ability to do things there. You're quite from a digital perspective. Bit consumer-facing industries as well, so definitely retail, transportation, travel.
Really?
I'm seeing more in there rather than trying to innovate in regulation-heavy or your industries like your finance, for example. There's opportunity there, but the ability to do things differently can be quite limited. Manufacturing, you've got very high capital costs often, so actually trying to change things there is an embedded mindset. So, but definitely what we're seeing is lots in retail and lots around the sort of the whole travel, you know, consumer side and those sort of things. Sam?
I go through phases personally with different sectors, to be honest, and I to a certain extent I think it's dangerous to focus on sectors and trends, because you do end up you have the risk of you know, ending up with this herd mentality of, you know, this sector's really cool at the moment, so, you know, this is where all the money should be getting put, or, you know, all of the you know, attention should be focused. And so I, on a case-by-case basis, I guess I tend to be really interested by those problem solvers that I hear that I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a really simple, clever way to deal with that. Like, you know, there's ones where you're like, surely this already exists. Surely someone already did this. So yeah, I get asked this question a lot about sectors, and I struggle to answer it because I have my favourites. Like, I'm really personally interested in virtual reality, but I don't necessarily think you know, that's going to be where we'll place all of our money. I just like the idea of.
And arguably some of the more exciting stuff happens in the places where people bridge sectors, because I think there's a danger, to your point about siloing, actually some of the magic happens when you mix a couple of categories together.
That's where all the magic.
I mean, I was in Liverpool last night, and, you know, one of the interesting examples is you've got Shop Direct, which is obviously a big e-commerce play in it. But if you look at the structure of their tech team internally, they're built more as a fintech. So they're working with big data, or there was an Australian guy that was big data. They were you know, using cognitive computing, work with IBM Watson, really about profiling who are the ideal customers, who's going to make them the most money, and what financial products they can offer them. So the front was e-commerce, but actually the real money was being made from fintech applications they were deploying. So that they won't be siloed at some point. It will be a bit of a thing that cuts across that things of AI, fintech, and e-commerce across the mix. Your turn. Have you got any questions for our lovely panel? You will have to shout. I don't have a mic on me, but I think the acoustics are fairly good. Oh, we've got a timid crowd, have we? Go for it.
Can I just ask
Sorry, who are you, first of all?
Marianne, I'm a freelancer and also work at Fourth Day Job as well.
Oh, cool.
So I was just wondering, a nose question really, you mentioned in 2014 you nearly went bust, so was there any, what happened since then that you didn't go bust?
Well, so it's fairly boring really. I sat down with my chairman and over the course of a weekend we fired everybody, bar 2 members of staff. And we went from being 13 members of staff to having 3 of us left in the business. It's not really a weekend I'm proud of, it's not really a weekend I enjoyed, but it had to happen. And that changed us from losing 20 grand a month to the stage where we made like £1 grand, maybe £2 grand a month. We solved the problem with it. The HMRC thing, again, was a balanced risk, right? I knew we were going to get 60 to 70 grand of R&D tax credits, and I was lying to the government on one hand, and I was going to get it back on the other hand. So it was a balanced risk. It was just how long I could keep the lie up before they said, actually, there's some money missing.
Yeah.
And since then, we've focused on being, quotes, quotes, a proper business, quotes, quotes. And that means focusing on generating cash flows that can lead to us growing. We were 6 people, so we basically stayed as 3 people for a year and a half. We went up to 6 people a year ago. We're now 20 people, we'll be 40 people at the end of the year. But it's all being generated by real customers paying us real money I don't know if that answers the question, but
Yeah, I was just interested in it.
yeah, no, it's exciting since then. But so we've kind of got this kind of sawtooth. If you look at our growth, it's.
And I think that's the kind of thing that you don't kind of learn at school. And I think something that is prevalent in the startup community is that sometimes things aren't going to go right straight away, and sometimes things are going to fail.
Most of the time.
Yeah, and I think that that thing about it being okay to fail as well. We've been having talk about that in the office with looking at the difference between the US again and the UK, and it's like, I mean, do you think that it's okay to fail more in the US than it is here?
I'm going to say something that's horrible, controversial, and maybe I'm going to regret, but I'm going to go for it. I make a number, like 4 or 5 angel investments a year, and I used to invest in quotes, young people, and by that I mean 20-year-old graduate type level. Again, I realise I'm getting old now. And it really annoyed me because what used to happen is I'd see people, they'd raise money and I'd be involved in an angel round and stuff would happen, and then it would get difficult, and then they'd stop. And we'd all lose our money, and you know what, you're an investor, that's what happens, right? But it really annoyed me. And so I now like to invest in businesses where people are typically 30 to 35, they've probably got children, they've got some kind of response. Yeah, when the going gets tough, they stick through it. And I've got this hypothesis as well that says things take a really long time. Yeah. They just do, right? Occasionally you get the Instagram, YouTube, whatever bought out for a bajillion quid, but most of the time they take a really long time, and the important piece is being there tomorrow, not dreaming about the future. So,
yeah, and I agree with that. And also, sometimes if you start a business, it doesn't pay off. You've got to work your arse off, and sometimes you have to take a few knocks on the way. You've got to persevere.
Everything's been an incremental improvement on the first thing. If I wanted to be a DJ,
span out of that, and
you've kind of got this. You might have gone some interesting routes,
but again, it was perseverance. When I was at university, I kept going off on tangents, and I think there's this thing which is quite common amongst entrepreneurs is, you have so many ideas, and you've got to learn sometimes actually just to ignore them and just focus on the one thing that seems to be working. When I was at uni, I was registering domain names for different ideas I had, like on a weekly basis, and started half-assed sort of putting together a website for this, that, and the other. And then, in actual fact, I shouldn't have been wasting time doing that. I should have just been focusing on what was working at the time. I learnt back then, but it's quite common amongst entrepreneurs. It's kind of learning to sometimes resist temptation and resist, shiny object syndrome and all that kind of stuff.
The shiny thing's always more exciting than the boring thing.
Yeah.
Right. That kind of, you'll hear investors and accelerators and lots of startup programs talk about they look for team, and it's kind of like this headline thing, but what does that mean? And when you're looking at a strong management team, to a certain extent, that's one of the attributes that you're looking for in an entrepreneur, is that kind of mindset of being able to come up against the hard times and then still continue, and not just when it gets difficult.
And also, you come up with an idea, it's going to be with you for some years, so you can't get bored of it. You've got to. That's it. That once you're in, you're in. You've got to stick at it until it works.
I don't know. I've quit CANDDi 100 times. I've never actually followed through, but there's been 100 times I go, I'm just not doing this anymore.
It's fascinating. You talked about the kind of concept of unicorns before. It sounds a bit more like, and this is the wrong word, maybe it's not cart horses, but it is, the industrious, more, I'm going to crack on and do there and get there. And I've got to think there's more of a sense of achievement in exactly what you've done there, is that you've achieved you've got the scars, arguably.
I see it frequently, and certainly in CANDDi. We'll take the symbol of the bee, the Manchester worker bee, far more than the symbol of a unicorn.
Yeah. I like that. That's our soundbite, I reckon. Another question there.
Yeah.
And who are you? Sorry, as well.
Yes, Ian Berkeley, AZO Network. We're actually an Australian business. We've just relocated into these premises on the 4th floor.
Oh,
So
magic.
that's obviously a positive from a Manchester perspective, I guess.
Cool.
I just wanted to ask the question with regards to the investment landscape within Manchester these days. Would you say it's better, it's more accessible than it was, say, 4 years ago? Because certainly from my perspective, looking at, I'm pretty au fait with Sydney and the Australian market, Manchester's much more progressive and accessible than somewhere like Sydney.
That's interesting, because I think, I moved to Manchester 2010. There wasn't really a startup scene at all then. Now there's multiple sort of co-working spaces, there's accelerators, there's more. I think there's a lot more investment. That's my opinion from what I've seen. And there is certainly a tech scene here, and it's still very early days, I think, but it's definitely growing. It's grown a lot over even the past 2 years.
I think it depends what you want to raise and who you want to raise it from. Is there a good RDA scene? Yes. Is there a Series A scene? No.
Yeah.
Is there an angel scene? Kinda. I think it depends what you want and what you're looking to raise. I think London's probably. Oh, I don't know. Who's done a Series A here recently? Judil, possibly. Access Pay, but actually they've not really done a Series A. They've bought in debt money and working capital money as opposed to real VC money.
Yeah.
Oh, who's done a Series A here? Don't know.
Not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Richard.
No, not many. I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Well, the pain point, and actually, so I take kind of a pan-northern view, obviously, given my role, and actually, Manchester's probably got more access to finance than any other northern cities right now, and that's no big secret.
Yeah.
There's more evidence of that, quite frankly. There's the odd blip in the northeast where I'd say blip. Atom Bank's raised 86 million. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's not too shabby. And that's in the fintech space, and then due course, like you say, over here.
Yes.
But again, I mean, of that 6 and something million, 5 of that was really to function as a
Yeah.
lending service. It was really a really big overdraft.
I think if you look at, I was looking through the top 50 businesses, and there was no one in there that I went, oh, they've done a really big publicised Series A.
But it comes back to, I think there's
People always publicise as well, though, because I think there's a.
It's the investors all in the publicity mostly, isn't it?
Yeah. I guess I was having a chat with someone a few weeks ago that they raised a decent amount of money. They're registered in Sheffield, but also in registered in Sheffield. It's called Flow. They raised 12 million. And I guess it was everywhere, but they don't necessarily celebrate the raising of the fund.
And that was Chinese money, wasn't it? In the end, that was literally that was for expanding into China.
But also, I spoke to a founder a few months ago. She was like, I never celebrate selling part of my company. It's something that I have to do.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think that in Manchester we kind of shout less about success as well than other places in the UK?
Less than other big places in the UK? Like where?
Do you mean London?
Do you mean London?
Well, because I think Manchester's quite people are quite chilled out. Do you think that we kind of need to sort of celebrate the success of raising capital or anything more, or do you know?
I hear that every single city I go into that's not London.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it just that there's more outlets for kind of publicity in London, maybe, in terms of like more tech press and all this kind of stuff, and there's not very many Manchester-focused sort of tech-focused things, is there? It's all like
I think there's also a question that goes: is tech press where you want to do your publicity?
And again, it's
our customers don't read the tech press.
No, but then do customers really care about how much money you've raised? It's very much just like, I think it's very much a sort of tech mentality, isn't it? And
there's also people who are trying to sort of nurture this space as well, and nurture an ecosystem and things like that they want to kind of point to these successes, and that's understandable as well, to raise ambition, and you are what you see and all this kind of stuff, but yeah, you're right, what does it matter?
No,
get more
the customers want to know that can your product do what they're expected to? Is it, priced accordingly, and can you provide them a good service? I suppose ultimately that's what it boils down to. They don't really care about how you do that.
I don't know. We do some slightly larger deals occasionally where people go, "Can we have a look at your balance sheet?"
Yeah, I guess it depends on the
sort of
story
about.
Different folk. If you're going after sort of like enterprise
They
level
want to know
customers.
when you're going to be here tomorrow.
Yeah, it varies from business to business in that case, doesn't it?
But coming back to your point about the raises and the investment scene, arguably, so when you look, you talk about top 50, top 100 list, the Manchester businesses, the more successful ones, quite frankly, didn't take funding full stop. So, we talk about funding and investment a lot. It's actually the minority of businesses that take it. It's like a third of all the businesses that take funding. Now, there's a chicken and egg scenario there. Is that
let's define funding as well, right?
Yeah.
So most businesses at some point need some form of external capital. We're talking about VC equity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but the majority are, and I hate the phrase bootstrapped, because we have the saying bootstrap, what my dad would call running a business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not going getting finance.
I hate the word startup for the same reason.
Yeah,
it's a business, right? It's either a business or it's not a business. It can be figuring out what a business is, but I don't know.
Yeah. So I think part of that is that actually the large, big, successful tech companies, and there's a whole argument about where you define the start and end of tech, to be fair as well, are already profitable, didn't want funding raises, and self-funded. Now, I don't know whether that was because there wasn't the funding available or they just didn't want it. It could be a chicken and egg scenario. And there's certainly, to your second point around Manchester shouting about itself, I've always had a view that the UK versus the US is certainly more humble. Right? We don't brag as much. We get our head down and get on with it. And the North in general is more humble than London. Inside of that, I think Manchester probably gets a disproportionate amount of publicity for its deals and for its businesses. If you go to any of the other cities that I cover in the North, you hear a lot more about Manchester shouting to you there, Manchester doing that, it's all about Manchester. Yeah, it is.
But sometimes that's just volume of city, isn't it? It comes back to volume of state. Yeah. It's a bigger city, therefore it's more likely more noise will be created.
I'm going to take you over the other side of the pen and start that conversation. You can do it for me. Brilliant. Go on. We've got two last questions, then we'll stop after that, because I'll get off Rachel shortly. Go for it. Who are you? Where are you from, first of all?
My name's Paul. I've got a company called Herd. I've actually just turned down funding, which I never thought I'd do. Now, I don't know why I've done it, if that makes sense. The offer was good, it was great on paper, something wasn't right. I don't know what it is, I know I've made the right decision, but I still kind of can't tell you why.
What do you do? What does Herd do?
It's a new social platform. There's still a gap in the social market for connecting with the people around you, gigs, festivals, networking. It's not something you can easily do on Facebook or Twitter. To talk to the people around you, essentially. And that's what we're doing.
So without, and you don't have to give away the potential investor, but was that a local or?
It was a private investor, well known, very successful at what they do. Like I said, I'm still not quite sure why it doesn't feel right, and I know I've made the right decision. What do you guys look for that isn't on paper? Because the business plan's okay, their business plan was sound. Like I said, on paper everything looked like it should be a perfect fit. But
you've got to buy into the person, I always think. Maybe there was something you didn't like about him or her. Or
yeah, like I said.
Maybe it was just to get. I think for me, I've always thought you've got to follow your gut instinct when it comes to business partners. Sometimes when it comes to investment, when it comes to hiring staff, I think that stands for a lot. And particularly if the other question is, I guess, why did you go into business? What's your goal? What was your motivation to go into business in the first place? Because ultimately, if you've spent time building something and it's your baby, if you're selling part of your soul in a sense, you can view it like that. It certainly would feel like that for me, I suppose. And again, I've had lots of offers from people who want to invest in things in the past. Never gone as far as having a kind of formal proposal, but tons of messages. I normally get about one a week from VCs. Just so, but for me, I've always been very much just like single-minded, and I enjoy sort of having full control over everything. So
was the approach unsolicited? You weren't looking for funding, they came
No, we're looking for funding.
Right.
People. We're speaking to a couple of friends in Manchester. This person got in contact with through somebody else. Like I said, seemed fine on paper, nice enough person.
Something doesn't feel right.
And I know I've made the right decision.
Well, there we go. That's it. Just that's really valuable. I've always believed as an entrepreneur, you've got to just trust your gut instinct. And if something doesn't feel right, then it's probably not. But how to answer exactly what it is sometimes very difficult, I think.
Yeah, I mean, until you just said that, I was going to perhaps suggest that there was something to do with timing as well, that if you're actively seeking funding, because I think things can feel differently at different times in your business as well, and you know, what might not be right for you today might be right, you know, or what offer you're getting now would have been great 6 months ago, but actually you're in a different place, and so there's so many sort of factors that aren't, you know, necessarily quantitative. But
it's hard to answer that question, isn't it, I think?
it is, yeah. But if you're just getting a funny feeling, then yeah, you should listen to that.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably the other way around is that if you weren't seeking funding, someone approached you, that's the time to go out to market, because someone's knocked on your door and you go, right, well, there must be other people that might be interested. Let's go and shop around a little bit more inside of that.
Puts you in an interesting negotiating position as well. You know, once you've had a few term sheets, it's good practice.
There was a last question.
That's a good point, yeah.
Does it still apply?
Yes.
And you are?
My name's Will. I'm a student at the University of Manchester.
Okay. Is the University of Manchester an innovative university in your mind?
Yeah, we do a lot of research, but I say the level of access that we have to kind of entrepreneurial support is probably quite limited at the moment, I'd say. But
stop nothing.
Going back to what you were saying about how it's kind of seen as quite easy to start a business, so anybody can register a domain name or prototype a mobile app and things like that. Do you think it's healthy, I suppose, for the industry to have that mentality of, I can have this idea and go into it and build an app and sell it for billions like Instagram did? Or do you think that it's important to educate younger entrepreneurs about the things and about what doesn't work?
I think it's such a balance, because on the one hand, I am so for sort of encouraging people to just get in there and do something. Partly because I think of entrepreneurship a little bit like a ladder. And so I think that the best way to learn how to do something, to build up muscle memory, is to actually go and do it in as safe environment as possible. University is a great place to start doing that, I think. But yeah, on the other hand, I think assuming that all you need to do is set up a domain name and register your business, and that you are going to be this massive success, I think recognising that it's going to be loads of work in that.
And you may not necessarily create Instagram, but you can start a business. I think that trying ideas is a good thing, because ultimately if you don't try something you don't know, until you've got to just go for it.
I would hate to put people off going for something just by being like, these are all the things that could go wrong and scary.
Exactly. But also I think being as you say, it's a good striking a balance, isn't it, really?
The counter to that goes with freedom comes responsibility. And going in with the dream of the dream's great, right? Buy the dream, do the dream, but be responsible every day of what you're doing every single day. And that's to me one of the bits that frustrates me about when I see people taking money too early or too young or too etc. is, do you have a responsibility? There's a responsibility to your investors. There's a responsibility to the people that have backed you. And sometimes you go bust. That's and if you go bust in the right way, then everyone goes, okay, that was the right thing to do. But just stopping if you don't fancy it, well, that's irresponsible. Freedom, responsibility, and
that goes both ways as well. For
completely.
Obviously. But from the investor's perspective, if you're investing in someone too early, if you're pushing someone towards 100%. Something that they don't want, then you're being irresponsible.
Yeah,
100%.
The start as well.
Is there a strategy in place to get to the dream? Isn't it? It's not just like you're just investing, or you've got this dream, but do you know how you're going to have you got a system in place where you're going to say, right, first we're going to do this and then we're going to do that?
I think the low barrier to entry can also lead into false sense of security as well. Because it's actually, if it's this easy, and look at the Ubers and all the other companies out there, they've just got an app, and actually, in a way, I wish the bar was just that little bit higher. Because when we work with so many, I was speaking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about a really innovative digital healthcare application. And it's like, but how on earth would they get the opportunity to surface amongst the hundreds of other and thousands of other digital healthcare applications out there? And so in a way there's a risk that the market is so wide now for starters, so many out there, that actually as a good one it's even harder to be successful. So I think that it's easy to launch an app, but but we need everybody to realise that you need to run a business.
And I guess the
you know,
argument is that access to finance is one of the kind of market measures to limit that.
Yes.
Some just aren't going to work for that reason.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think everyone should have a go at it, because only to realise that a lot of people can't do it. Because I think it absolutely gives you a new sense of, an understanding of how hard it absolutely is. Something to go through what Tim's been going through, you know, to go through those challenges. Most people can't do that. That sounds really brutal. Most people won't and can't. But until they've been in those shoes, they won't always have the respect for the decisions you have to make. And I think the minute you get in and realise, oh, it's quite hard, this, isn't it? I think it has an impact on you as ultimately as an employee potentially later on, that you have more respect for the person that's taken the leap and taken the risk and put in the hours and the blood, sweat and tears. I'm fine for you, Tim, but
I guess it comes right back to James' point. That goes, actually, when you do it, it doesn't actually seem that big a deal. It's evaluating risk, and sometimes when you sit back, you go, actually, that was kind of silly or kind of fun.
Like when you look back on your teenage years.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we can talk about businesses growing up and.
So, look, that's time. I want to do a little bit of a rapid side of that, because I think there were some takeaways. I mean, I told you we'd go all over the shop.
Yeah.
And we always do in these sessions. It's really brilliant. We learned that innovation is in the eye of the beholder. It's often tied to risk, and that innovation always happens in the pub. So why are there no accelerators that are based in the pub? That should be the way forward. Pub tech, that's going to be the new category we're going to get excited about. Can I get a round of applause for our wonderful panel?